Good morning and welcome to the Slava Heroyam podcast. I'm Travis Hightower, and this is the show where we talk about the individual heroes of Ukraine making a difference, the legends that they inspire, the organizations that you can give to help the humanitarian aid against Russia's terror campaign against the Ukrainian people. And sometimes we sadly have to memorialize those who left us during the week. Finally, we also fight against known propaganda strategies with different levels of the truth, different areas of the conflict. We try not to get too heavy into geopolitics, but we will do that to make sure that we're telling Ukraine's history correctly and to make sure that everyone knows that it's really not that complicated of a situation. So I am late today. It is 8:25 on the year of our Lord 2025, November 21st. And I had some technical difficulties this morning, so I wasn't too worried about it because I normally don't get any live viewers, and this probably has something to do with my cadence and not being very widespread at the moment. So, but this show is supposed to be on 7 a.m. on Friday mornings. We will have a Black Friday show. But today's show, we are going to be talking about a new organization that I just came across called Come Back Alive. Now, a lot of the organizations I cover where you can give aid to for Ukraine are strictly humanitarian. This is one of those organizations that provide to make sure that the soldiers come back alive. And there's a few of those that I sponsor or like to talk about and promote. Not really a sponsor for anyone. But we've had members and leaders of these organizations on the show, and we hope to continue to have that in the future. But we'll talk about Come Back Alive. There's been a lot of horrific attacks in the last 2 weeks on Ukrainian civilians. And what I want to do is focus on some of the young people being lost to this conflict, both soldiers, but especially the non-soldier. Because one of the points, we covered the documentary 2,000 Meters to Andriivka last time. And last time, that movie, that documentary showed a lot of how Ukraine is losing, essentially a generation of its people. Russia is on a much larger scale, by the way, but a lot of Ukrainians are not coming home, and they're not coming home both if they're a soldier and sometimes they're being hit right at home. And I think that is another aspect that unfortunately you can't cover all in one documentary, is whether they fight or not. The fight is taking a lot from them. And if they don't fight, they would lose even more. And that's something that will happen just by the way a nation behaves. That you can't afford to give up your freedom to a person that would order his troops to hunt you with drones. That you can't afford to give up your freedom to a person who is going to level your cities. They think in their mind do what I want or I'll destroy you completely. But if you give up your freedom to a person who is like that, you will lose everything completely. So I'm going off script a little bit, but let's get into Come Back Alive first. And then we'll talk about that documentary a little bit more, but I wanted to focus on one of the central figures of 2,000 meters to Adrivka, Fedya. And Fedya, hope you're still fighting the good fight. And may God protect you and Godspeed out there. Talk about technical difficulties. One of the things that I need to learn to do smoothly if I want to have a live audience someday is to be able to navigate. I use StreamYard, and I think you can even just straight up watch me on StreamYard. But here I am about to share the Come Back Alive Foundation. Also share my audio. I do not want to share my audio. Now I have to add this to the stage. See, this is, I can't tell what is being shared. Why didn't it add? So it's just, yeah, you're just seeing my StreamYard. Lots of technical difficulties today. All right. Share screen. Okay. There we go. I don't know what was so hard about that. It wasn't cooperating the first time. Okay. Here we have the Come Back Alive Foundation. And the Come Back Alive Foundation is this week's humanitarian spotlight, one of Ukraine's oldest and most respected defense charities. They were founded in 2014. Now, this foundation is for soldiers, but they don't buy weapons. It buys safety equipment. So even if you're not wanting to support the fighting in this war, you can still help make sure the soldiers get home. And I'll tell you why you should give to that, because I know the immediate question, even if I talk about a trusted charity on this channel, is why do I want to give to Ukraine when instead of giving to the United States? Well, my premise of this whole channel is that Ukraine is fighting the war that United States would normally be fighting. You would normally be your troops, your sons, maybe even the draft implemented to stop Putin from sweeping across Europe. And he does intend to sweep across Europe. If you don't believe that, stay tuned to this channel. That's not going to be the focus directly of this episode. But I want you to think about every foreign war that has been fought really since the Civil War, but especially World War I onward. American troops, the ones you've been celebrating, the veterans you've been celebrating, thank you. All of them have been fighting on foreign soil. Whether or not that was a good thing or a bad thing is the thing that, we can debate as a society. But that's where we have defended our freedom. We have not defended it as some kind of wall that we built. We've defended it by defending the ideology of freedom. And that ideology is is part of a sort of benign imperialism. It is something we share with our allies, and the reason we're supposed to have a good relationship with our allies. So you've got a situation that opponents will want you to make out to be as complicated as some of the ancient beefs in the Middle East. It's really not that complicated. It has always been about a people on their native land, and whether they were the Rus or a certain version of the Vikings, or whether or not they are today's Russia and Putin. They have always been an invader looking to take the land of the Cossacks and others, the Polacks, all of them that have settled in that breadbasket that is Ukraine. So, come back alive. When you donate to the Ukrainian soldier, you're also donating to full units worth of American soldiers that are fighting there. But you're donating to folks that are going to fight the war instead of your kid. And so I propose, my proponent on this channel is if whatever you give to veterans, take 2 to 5% of that. And for right now, while this conflict is happening, consider giving that to Ukraine through organizations that we know will get to the soldiers, like Come Back Alive, and organizations that we know will get to the civilians, especially those civilians being hit, well, in every city, but especially those civilians affected by the human safari on the front lines. So the Ukrainian brigades widely trust these guys. They vouch for them. If you've ever wondered how to make a real difference, this is how one of the most transparent organizations. They've given 200 thermal imagers donated each month, thousands of medical kits. Battlefield reckon they buy drones, but more importantly in these days, it's the anti-drone warfare. And so let me scroll down on the website. You'll see that they've got 4 different missions. Operation Evacuation. They evacuate soldiers, but also civilians from the front lines. Mission 077, that's communications. Communications with these frontline areas go down all the time. So it's not just military, but they need to be able to warn civilians to get the hell out of there. Training, especially against electronic warfare. Some of our folks are over there helping train them. And drone fall. This is kind of interesting. It's a version of the Terminator video game. They've kind of modified it here to take out, it says recon drones, but these days it would be human safari drones, the ones hunting civilians and the ones that are also hunting the military. But any way that you can take out, especially the drones involved in the terror operations, you'll be able to get more aid to more people. So consider donating to the Come Back Alive Foundation. They have a great website, savelife.in.ua. I'm going to put that up in the description right now. Let me make a little banner. savelife.in.ua, and there's an English version. There we are. All right, so that's our organization of the week. Now, the next one that okay, here we go. All right. Here we go with who we need saving. Let's see. I don't want to start with her, but we have an unnamed woman and her two children. One of them was only 7. One wasn't even a year old. She was killed in the drone attacks 20 November. So, or 19, today's the 21st, 19 November. All 3 of them just gone. And we're going to show several more. And I guess I have to add one at a time here. Kind of wanted, so there was more than 20 people. There were 20 people or so that were killed in the town of so the most striking thing that I really want to get across this time is how many young people are being lost. 18, 19, 20, 24. In America, these are your college freshmen, your young parents, your gamers, your baristas, your editor at the UTU's newspaper, your freshman college student that is just getting ready, your ones going overseas and touring Europe for the first time and coming home, and your medical students, your future medical students. This is the future of your nation. You have young medics being killed during evacuations. You have a lot of teenagers that have gone to fight. 20 to 25-year-old infantry fighters. In the last 2 weeks alone, Ukraine has buried defenders out of high school fighting for Ukraine, a 20-year-old drone operator who saved dozens of lives and got an award. A lot of these names haven't been released yet. A 23-year-old medic who died shielding the wounded, and civilians. It's not an army of 40-year-olds, guys. And you'll see that 25 November is when 2,000 meters to Andriivka comes out. The name of one of the towns that got hit the hardest was Ternopil. So what I'm showing you right now on the screen is some of the more than 20 people that were killed in Ternopil by these were by long range drone strikes, I believe. But every day, people just like this are also being killed by individual drones. I showed you the woman and her two children. There's a little smaller picture of them here. I should have figured out how to make slide. Next time I'll figure out how to make a slideshow of these because there's so many, unfortunately. One of the other Ternopil victims is Elena. She has two children that are also in critical condition, trying to survive. I think it's 19 November instead of 20 November. It's been 20 November. Relatively overnight. So. This family was not in Ternopil. But I want to remember them because we lost all three of them. Young families with young kids. Now, I know Gaza is horrible, and there has been in total a lot more people dying there just of not being able to get food and resources. But you can make the case that they're not directly under attack. They're either collateral damage because they're all in a very tight space. All the world has to do to stop that situation is stop funding. Stop allowing Israel to do it through economic means. They'll stop. To stop this situation and to protect these people, force is going to be necessary. And what I am a proponent of is that there's no deal that can be made with someone like Putin and his regime. So what do you need to prevent kids like this from getting killed? Well, you need a no-fly zone. That helps stops the big drones. Second thing you need is enough support that Ukraine goes and wins this thing. And I need people to understand just how amazing it is that they keep on this wide front, that they opened two new fronts, invaded Russia, that they're degrading daily Russia's economic capability by taking out their oil. Ukraine is eventually going to win this thing economically. Just what the only question is, what's the toll of the lives that are going to be lost? That's up for us as people of not just the United States, but of the world to decide. We can make our leaders as democracies, fledgling democracies, but still democracies, We can make them protect people like Natalia. We can make them go in the war the only way that it's going to be ended. Zaporizhia. That's in the middle of Ukraine, guys. It's not front lines. A lot of these folks that have perished, or even in Kyiv, people say, "Oh, Kyiv and Lviv and all that are safe." There's no real safe place in Ukraine, and Putin has made sure to emphasize that with every attack. Even if you shoot down 90% of what he sends almost every night, you're going to lose 20 to 100 people. And even if you have drone detectors and figure out how to put up nets along the roads and live in your basement all the time and do your activities in your basement, eventually you got to go outside, and eventually there's going to be a drone waiting for you if you live in some of these communities. This young lady fought for her life for 3 months and then couldn't hold on any longer. I'm going to put a slideshow on Instagram. A lot of these kids. Athlete, Olympic hopeful, taken from us in the Kharkiv region just in the last 2 weeks. So, putting some faces with the names, with the statistics, which I hope will help inspire some folks to give to Save Life. .in.ua, which is the Come Home Alive Foundation. All right, let's get into our main topic for today. That is Freya, the platoon commander, essentially, battalion commander, from 2,000 meters to Andriivka. I have a series of, I have only a couple of pictures of him on my Instagram. I'm looking for a picture right now. You know what we'll do? We'll just share my Substack article, because the idea here is that I cover a hero of the week. Comes out every Monday. It's supposed to come out on Monday evenings. A lot of times I'm not there until Tuesday. Man, I wish that they had. I probably have a better way to do this. I probably need to set up a media presentation so that I'm not clicking around all the time. Let's go to my website version. Oh, well, then that's going to show you. Hey, it's me. Cast. guess I don't want to go to my website version. I want to go to my post. There we go. So here's the article I wrote. That guy, Freya has shown a lot in shadow in the promotional materials. There's the trailer. There's Andrivka the cat. There he is raising the flag. So, let's talk about him. Well, and I've already talked about kind of our anti-propaganda this week is that it's not our war. I think all the propaganda starts there. And America's fought a lot of wars that are arguably have not been our war. Or they started out that way, and certain people liked having it go on longer because it benefited them. There are ways to go fight a war and win it and make sure that doesn't happen. You're not facing guerrillas here. You're not facing people that are going to be fighting you tooth and nail from caves in the mountains. You're not creating a regime of terrorists by removing the dictatorship of a region. You're not doing any of those things. It is a very simple, straightforward, just like World War II. Bad country invaded people. You want to kick the bad people out. Simple as that. If there's any kind of war that America ideologically has built itself to fight, it's this one. And we don't even have to fight it. All we need is to give the people fighting it the right amount of resources and equipment to end it. But that means some of our best equipment, not just this trickle-down garage sale stuff. And it means closing the sky. I mean, absolutely. NATO has done that for a lot less. We did it for Iraq for a long, long time, just to protect some tribal people in the north and some people of a slightly different religion that Saddam Hussein was gassing. And we did it anyway. Have I harped enough on how it is the world's war, not just Ukraine's war? Fedya understands that. He's 24 years old. He leads the 3rd Assault Brigade, the 3rd Battalion, Hydra. As I keep talking about, he is in 2,000 meters to Andrivka. And he's lost most of his men in that campaign. He was wounded and kept fighting. And what inspired me about him was his optimism in the face of just all the devastation. And I think most Ukrainian soldiers are that way. And what I'm curious about with the Ukrainian soldiers is if they would tell you exactly what I tell you, that they know that they're the front line of defense. I've talked to some people from Ukraine that know this, but I haven't yet had the opportunity. I am in contact with a soldier, but it is, one of those things that that maybe they were going to do an interview and then decided that maybe they can't, and I respect that. So, but I may be able to quote them in some information, something like that. Describe, yeah. Really, this flag raising moment that I see here just reminds me so very much of Iwo Jima. And it's not, even the initial flag raising on Iwo Jima was kind of unimpressive looking, kind of like this. But it's, you got to remember, Iwo Jima is a small speck of dirt in the Pacific Ocean that we needed for a runway to launch future attacks. This is somebody's home that was taken from them. Somebody's home that people had to run from because there was no way they were going to be able to live there under constant artillery barrage. Even when the Russians take it, there's nothing to take anymore. So the Ukrainian soldier has to talk about rebuilding and returning, not just liberating. And I think that is one of the powerful things to think about, is that land isn't land in just a real estate deal. Even the land that's already taken has swaths and towns and swaths of land, farmland, cities and towns that people just want to go home to, and they can't go home. Not because people aren't fighting, or not because there's a war being fought, but because their town is gone. And Russia tells you they're going to rebuild it, they're not going to rebuild it. And I think I saw the British soldier, the British soldier who was who became a Ukrainian citizen, but he's now back in Britain, I believe. What is his name? Anyway, he was part of the defense of Mariupol for a while before he had to go to be in captivity. And he's like, when we liberate Mariupol, Putin's made a big show of showing how he's rebuilding the city. He's basically saying, when you go back into that city, you're gonna find all sorts of atrocities still happening. So that city is a propaganda tool. They're going to show you the shiny bits that they can. Russia's not going to rebuild these towns, is my point. And the people that live there, they're not going to want to go back for a lot of reasons. They might have wanted, some of them might have wanted their own country at one point, because they didn't trust Ukraine's Euromaidan to be legit. But I think they trust it to be legit now. Tyrants show their face eventually, and you have to have guys like Fedya come along and say, we'll be here now. And Rivka is back under Russian control. But this is a reminder of who it belongs to. The cat, there's a cat that survives from Andreevka, and they name the cat Andreevka. It's just another reminder that it's somebody's home. That was somebody's pet. Their cat. That's how fast people had to leave sometimes. They had to leave animals behind. What to do with all the displaced war orphan animals is a subject of charity in itself for Ukraine. But animals like that is a reminder that there is a life there to be had after victory. Idealism, such ideology of believing that you're going to win is versus wondering why they're fighting is another reason. Not only that why Ukraine will win, but why I throw my support behind it. I don't know that there are still people fighting in Afghanistan for freedom, especially women, for women's rights against the Taliban and what's been taken from them again. But as a nation, there is like a guerrilla group fighting the Taliban. But as a nation, they folded pretty quickly. And I think a lot of that is fear. And I think people see that and they see, oh, that's a tribal situation. And I think I really want to drive that home is that Ukraine people had their differences. Some of them even wanted their own country for a little bit because they're right next to one of the countries that spreads distrust as a matter of a profession. So, if Fedya inspires you as he's inspired me, please share this episode, share his story. Go see the documentary on YouTube, 25 November. And in Dallas on 29 November at the Dallas Holocaust Museum, we are holding a double event. The event is with the Ukraine Culture Club and the Chamber of Commerce and the SMU Humanitarian Division, among others, is putting on a presentation of Holodomor. Starts at 1:30. Holodomor is when Stalin deliberately starved the Ukrainian people to try to get them to punish them in the 30s for not capitulating to his wishes. I'm going to learn more about it on 29 November. We're going to have some descendants of survivors of that ordeal speak to us. So come out to the Holocaust Museum on 29 November at 1:30. Participate in that because after that, we'll have another special screening of Kherson Human Safari. And Zarina Zabriskie will be there to and do a Q&A for the documentary. And she may bring additional footage. I'm not sure of, she could basically build a whole nother second documentary of how much the Human Safari has developed and what it has taken since the first documentary, which has been a lot. There's been a lot in the last 4 months or so that has gone on as she's been back. I'm going to put the link in the description of this to that event, to the Kherson Human Safari website, and the 2,000 meters to Andriivka website. Thank you for being with us, and we will have another Hero of the Week next week on Black Friday. Next time, we'll be going back to the Ukrainian Air Force and talking about a pilot. I haven't talked about the Ukrainian Air Force and a pilot in a while, but it's really important because we'll talk a little bit more about no-fly zones and what that'll entail next time. So we'll see you next Friday. If you missed this live episode, which looks like everyone has still, so you'll be catching the recorded version, which will come out sometime Saturday morning. I appreciate you watching, and glory to all those who defend the Constitution of the United States. Glory to the heroes in Ukraine, and Slava, Ukraine.